Good evening and welcome to the Government Relations and Communications Committee of the Radnor Township School District School Board. Tonight is October 21st, 2025, and we often just kind of jump in, but we have a new face this month, so I'm going to go around and introduce everybody and then welcome our new student rep. So we have Dr. Jim Kearney. He's our he's our administrative liaison to the committee. Yeah. Mr. Thornton has an excused absence this evening. Ms. Gerton is the vice chair of the committee. I chair the committee. Ms. Lau is here. Janie Lau is, well, you know her already, but she's also on the committee, so usually 4 of us on a committee. Mr. Bechtold is the assistant to the superintendent, and also joining us this evening is Dr. Batchelor, also has an excused absence. And then it's Kirthi Midi, is that right? Kirthi Midi, nice to meet you, welcome. This is probably going to be a fairly short meeting this evening. The meeting of the Government Relations and Communications Committee doesn't meet every month. Usually we don't always have a need to, but when we do meet, we try to get something useful done. So I'm going to let you take it away. Oh, actually, I guess I have to start with, no, administrative remarks. We'll go there first.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. Yes, this is our first Government Relations Communications meeting of the year, and as many of them are, maybe short, but that'll be up to you, mostly. Kirthi, we'd like to welcome you to the committee. It's great to have you here. Tonight's agenda is primarily an update from the Communications Department on the great work that they've been up to, as well as some of the things that they're pursuing over the next year or so. And then there'll be an opportunity to talk about any of the recent government action or inaction, as it may be, depending on what catches your attention. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Seeing none in the room, do we have any recorded public comment? Okay, so we have no public comment this evening. The review of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes from last May, I guess it was? Any concerns, questions? Okay, we will let those go as is then. And then we would like to welcome Ms. Teji Brennan, our communicator extraordinaire, up for the communication update. Welcome.
I know I should. Thank you all for having me today. I am thrilled to be here to give you a quick update on some of the things that are happening in the communications department, as well as a couple of other things that are more district-wide than that as well. So tonight I'm going to speak about our priorities, primarily accessibility, translation, some updates on the platforms that we use for communications, and as well talking about some celebrations that we get to enjoy. So I'm going to start off with accessibility, digital accessibility specifically. As you may be aware, in April of 2024, the Department of Justice had some updates to Title II of the ADA, and part of that was requiring some specific accessibility issues with digital communications. And so essentially that is that we make sure that all of our digital platforms are accessible to people who might not be able to access them without some support. So the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG as it's very often called, are a specific set of technical requirements that we need to meet to make our digital communications accessible. So really what that means is that for people with disabilities that might have vision or vision impairment or trouble with hearing, we just have to make sure that what we put out is possible to use with assistive technologies. So our goal in making sure that all of ours, personally for the district and the way that we are approaching it, is that we want to make sure that our communications, the information that we put out, is inclusive, transparent, and it builds our community. As it is, we try to be as informative as we can to our entire community, and this is just the next step in that, to make sure that everyone, all of our families, all of our students feel that they can access the information that we are putting out. So that really is our goal. The update does mandate that state and local governments have to meet it at certain deadlines. Because of the size of our district, our deadline is April of 2027. So we have about 18 months or so to meet the requirements that they've put forth. So to that end, we've made a plan of how we're going to do that. So we've already started this, but we do need to assess our current website. And we'll go through that page by page to flag any real concerns that we think we might have. Now, we are lucky in that because we had this significant renovation of our overhaul of our website just a few years ago, we are on a really good starting position. So that's great for us. That being said, there are small things that have happened over the last couple of years that do still need to be addressed. And so with that, we're going to do sort of an internal audit of our own website, and we will just do that ourselves. And with that, working as a team in my department, we are setting milestones that might include remediation of high priority issues like the use of PDFs, making sure we have alt text on photos, and just ease of navigation of the website are just some of the examples that we're going to be addressing. And then we'll work with other departments and vendors to ensure compliance. I was thrilled to hear Dr. Hand speak earlier in the policy meeting about board docs and how we are going to be shifting some of the ways that we use the policies as well as the ARs, because of anything that we sort of link out from our website should be accessible as well. So we have to just make sure that the vendors that we're speaking with understand that our compliance is their compliance as well. So I was glad that he was talking about some of the things like that we need to do. And then we'll assess the high traffic pages and prioritize those pages so that we are sure to get to those first, so that anyone who's coming to our website is able to get to the information that they need. And of course, we are going to focus on training. Because I will be honest, this is going to be a heavy lift. This is going to be a heavy lift for our department. It's going to be a heavy lift across the district, because there are a lot of small details that you're just going to have to get used to. You're not going to be doing work the same way that you have done in the past, because of just the way that you have to build things out. So it's going to come in many different forms. Virginia Glatzer in the technology department is really managing the instructional accessibility component of it, and has, I believe, already had a couple of hours of PD with staff and faculty to make sure that they are up to speed, at least being aware of what is coming down the pike, and then have a few more hours of PD scheduled throughout the year just to make sure, again, they might be things of when you are sending out a newsletter to your families, you should have it like this. You should have it laid out like this. If you had a material that you've been using for many years, but it's not accessible, how are you going to adapt that so now that it is? So there's a lot of different ways of making this accessible for our families and students, and it's just going to take a lot of work. I do not claim to be an expert now, but we are learning things on a daily basis on how we need to approach it. So we're just going to keep making this a priority for us, and we'll keep on working in different ways for it. So in terms of implementation, for a little bit more about training also, for those who have editing rights on our website, they need to understand the basics of what being accessible means, and there's an acronym that sort of lays out the principles of accessibility. It's POUR. So P is perceivable, and that is that things are presented in a way that can be perceived. So alt text, captioning on videos, all those kinds of things that people should be able to perceive what is happening. Operable is the O. Navigation, so the navigation is operable. So the functionality from a keyboard, you can do it like that. That's an example of that. Understandable, so we are going to use clear, simple language, not jargon, so that when somebody comes to our site, again, if they're using screen reader or anything like that, they'll be able to understand easily what is trying to be communicated. And then robust. And by that, we're talking about how our content is built so it can be easily understood by any kind of assistive technology that somebody might be able to use to get that. So in the short term, things might not look as pretty in terms of the design as it has in the past. But again, it's baby steps, and we're going to try and build up to a way that we start with, we're going to make the information as clear as possible so that anyone can get it. And then after that, once we learn better how to sort of design around that, it can get a little prettier. It might not always be pretty, but at least we're going to get that information out there. And that's really the most important thing for our users. We are also going to conduct regular testing, either with screen readers or ideally if we can get some hands-on user testing for us that might be able to say, like, this does work, this doesn't work, but other different kind of accessibility checkers and screen readers are really going to be the easiest way for us to do that. And then obviously even after April 2027, we are going to continuously be monitoring and updating things as we come across them, or if something seems to need to be tweaked or anything like that, we'll just continue to do that. So that'll just be top of mind for us in all ways for accessibility. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about doesn't seemingly fall under accessibility, but in fact it does. So for us, translation is one more barrier, one more way that we might keep somebody from being able to access the information that we have on our website. So we spoke a little bit about this the last time that we met, but what we have done is, right now we have probably over 40 languages that are spoken in our district. And we can tell from the SMORE analytics that we get that people are looking for translation of our messages. So that when we send something out and it says click to translate at the top, that links you to a SMORE newsletter. And that's more easily translatable. And on average, when we send a district-wide or a school-wide email, we might have anywhere from 50 to 200 people click through to find it in their language or to be able to read it. So we know that there is a need out there for translation to be something that we set as a priority. So it took some work, but we think we are in a good place to be able to put this moving forward. I will say that even though PowerSchool owns both School Messenger and eSchool, they don't always play well together. And so it's taken us a little bit of time, but I also want to give a shout out to Sabrina Delacio in our technology department, who's really been very helpful with helping us with the data migrations and how we need to move everything. But at this point, we do think that we have School Messenger speaking with eSchool. And so essentially what our plan right now is that in November, we are going to reach out to our families and say, our goal is to be able to set translate automatically after the new year. Right now, what we need from you is for you to select the language that you prefer to receive your communications in. So right now, it's basically English for everyone, and then they might need to translate it some other way. So what we would like to do is, if you are speaking a different language at home or would prefer to receive your information in a specific language, you can set that. And the reason that it took a little bit longer is that we had to separate the guardians, because there might be two separate languages that parents might want to get their information from. Someone might want it in English. We speak Kannada in my language, in my family, and so my mother would probably say, like, I want it in Kannada. My father might say, I wanted it in English, whatever it was. But to give them that option that they can individually receive it in a certain way, we had to build it out like that. So that email is going to go out in November. We're going to give them some time, because not everyone reads their emails the first day that they get it. So we're going to give them some time to really think about it, make sure that they do prefer to change the language or keep it in English, however that is. And then ideally by first or second week in June, we're going to flip that switch and the translation is going to happen automatically. So you are going to receive your communication. It's going to be the district-wide emails and principal emails. Teacher classroom communications are still going to go through Outlook, and so I think people in general have that translation set into their email systems. So that's a separate issue, and who knows, that might eventually be able to be rolled into this as well. But right now, district-wide principal, that's going to be automatically translated in January. And that's what we're going to do with translation. So we're hoping that that's really going to be a smooth rollout. There might be glitches. There also is the opportunity, if you select a different language and you get your messages and you're like, this is a terrible translation, I would rather have it in English again, there will be a grace period where you can sort of switch back and just sort of test it out, but just to make sure that it's, again, what you want to receive your information in. So that's where we are with that. That's sort of my overall accessibility portion of the presentation, and now I wanted to talk a little bit more just about the communications department in general. You hopefully are all familiar
Ms.
with.
Brennan, can I just interrupt
Of
you?
course.
Do you mind if we ask questions on that first half?
no,
If people
please.
have them? I
Go
just
ahead.
want to make sure, because I think
Yep.
people might have some questions about how it functions. We'll give you a little bit of a break from presenting, and then we kind of
Sure.
get those questions answered. We can kind of move to the next topic. Did you have any questions you want to ask?
Very quickly, first of all, thank you so much. You mentioned that it's a heavy lift, and it seems like it's going to be a heavy lift. But we do appreciate all the work that your department does for in this area in communications. I just had one question.
Sure.
If the date is the 2027, do you anticipate any changes to those requirements along the way? Or once we get to that point, as things change so rapidly,
Right.
I'm just curious if you think, oh, gosh, we're going to get there, and then there's going to be a whole host of other things that we're
I
going to
think that if there's anything significant, that deadline will move. I think the deadline set for 2027 is, this is what you have to meet by then. And there are different levels of requirement as well, and we are a AA level, double that as April 2027 will not change. There, as you say, there may be changes after that, and there will probably be continual changes and updates, but I think they will move the deadline then for those specific.
And is there anything else that you need in support, in terms of support for help to get to this place where we're?
Ms. Girton, I'm going to be honest with you. There probably will be. Right now, we're still assessing. Right now, we are still doing that audit to make sure that we know what it is that we need. Because, again, the magnitude of it is significant enough that I'm not sure we will know in the short term what all we might need in terms of support. But I will for sure let you know if we think we need something beyond what our abilities are right now.
So, and just to kind of contribute a little historical knowledge here, when I joined the board in 2017, I was on this committee, we were undergoing a review and a revision of the website. So part of the beautiful website we have now is that was a cleanup after we did a massive renovation, like you said, overhaul of the website to make sure that our communications back then complied with the ADA. And this is just an up, because I was like, wait, we already did this. And then I realized, oh, it's newer updates to the ADA, so the fact is there probably will be updates, but I'm sure we're fine for now if you just meet this deadline. And it went through a phase, and I know back then one of the first things you did was, or the communications department did, because you weren't here, was to lock down who actually had access to the website. And so I was glad to hear you still have that kind of protocol and those people understand their requirements. And I would just, as a suggestion, when we're contracting with vendors who may help us with this, make it clear to them that we expect them, like, that if they're not on meeting the obligations of the law and we face fines for non-compliance, we'll be coming to them to seek
Yeah.
reimbursement. And I really appreciate all the translation work you're doing, so thank you. That's really meaningful to a lot of members of the community and to the teachers who I know I've talked to over the years who've said it's really hard when my students' families don't, when English isn't their first language and they don't know what's going on in the buildings. So I appreciate that.
And I will shout out the EL department as well. Sarah Steiner and her team have been incredibly helpful with helping us in this portion of it as well, and really being able to speak with those families and seeing what that need is, and then also just being able to help us with the details of it. So they've been
Yeah.
great.
Any other questions?
So you mentioned that anything that our website links out to will also need to be accessible. So does that include e-newsletters like the Radnor Reader and the PTO newsletter?
You know what, the PTO is a good question. I'm a little less sure about that, but the reader will have to start, we'll have to start.
Yeah,
making
because
some-
I would argue,
some
even if not statutorily required, not to put more work on your plate, but I would argue that we should make even the PTO newsletter accessible as well.
Ms. Middy, did you have any questions? You don't have to. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
I do have one question. You mentioned that there would be a grace period for after the translation project was implemented where people can decide whether they would like their emails or announcements to be in their native language or English, depending on how good the translation is. After that grace period, would they be able to change it back to English? All right. I just wanted to ask.
Just that, like, they might need an extra minute, just like.
And is that going to work that if you don't make a selection, like the default is English, and if you don't make a selection between November and January, you mentioned kind of half jokingly if the translation is terrible, or do we have a means to get feedback from people if the translations are terrible? Okay.
Yes, after that.
Okay, because I know some of it's AI and some of it's probably a vendor we hire, and I would hope that if their translations aren't working, some of it may be lingo or jargon we're using, but some of it certainly falls to them, and we would expect them to
And as I
improve.
mentioned, the EL department, they will for sure be getting that feedback, and we will, right at the start, make sure that they know that if they hear anything, that they should get back to us, because I'm not sure all the families will know that they need to let us know, other than just saying, can we switch back?
Yes.
So we will make sure that the EL department also is.
Okay,
yeah.
great. Thank you very much. And sorry to interrupt you, but
No, not
it's
at
very
all.
helpful to be able to,
No, it's
Close
easier
that.
also to just be like
Yeah.
in that mode and then answer the questions, so.
so thank you. Okay, so tell us what else you're up to.
So, yeah, so our platforms that I'm hoping that you are all very familiar with already, they're the ones that we use most commonly. And just to talk a little bit about them, so our Instagram is continuing to grow. Again, I know that Ms. Duffy had mentioned it earlier also. I think it's the best way to show what is happening in our schools from a student perspective, from a classroom perspective, to really get a sense of what is happening in our district. So it's the place that we get the most joy out of. It's the place that I think people in the community get the most joy out of, and it's just, it's really a fun platform for us to use. Talking about the Radnor Reader, it is our primary information source for, I would say, the majority of our families and staff. The open rate is consistently in the 60% range, which is a phenomenal open rate for a newsletter that comes out weekly. I think the consistency of having it every Sunday at 3 p.m. is really good for that. People know when to look for it, when to expect that it's going to hit their mailboxes. So if they're looking for some kind of information, it's going to be there. So I'm really proud of how well that's been doing, and continues to be a source of a great resource for our families, because I do think a lot of people refer to it for specific dates, times, events that are happening, and we're proud of the fact that that's become such a stand bearer for us. And then LinkedIn, we have been easing more into that. Primarily, it had been being used as a posting area for job openings, and it's continuing to be that. But on top of that, we have really been using it where Instagram is more of our classroom and our students and what's happening there, reflecting what's happening on our staff end. So we use it for appreciation days, to celebrate achievements for our staff and faculty in general, and then also it's really, part of that is making sure that potential candidates, potential employees can get a sense of who we are in terms of culture and values through some of the things that we're posting on LinkedIn as well. So if you're not already following us on LinkedIn, please do. But that's just another platform, and we're trying to grow that a little bit more also. It's one that we have more recently been starting to use on a consistent basis. But those are our three platforms that we use there. The highlight of our year truly, is convocation. Thank you again to Ms. Dunn for participating and really, really engaging and participating with enthusiasm. So thank you for that. It was another successful event. We had great feedback from our staff and faculty on what they got out of it, how it was a great kickoff for the year. I did do a survey just of some of the administrators and participants there just to get some feedback on areas that we might be able to tweak or improve. And we did get some great suggestions, so we're going to take a review of that and see how we can improve the overall event in small ways and make it even better than it has been in last year. And we do have an idea for next year, so just keep your ears open for that. We will keep you posted on what we need from you all. So that is our convocation. And then the last thing I want to talk about is we did receive a couple of awards for our national conference for photography and videography, and really proud of that. But even more than that, we were able as a team to present at the national conference on our title was Getting Serious About Being Funny, about the importance and value of humor in getting messaging across. And I feel like we've used it exceptionally well in many of the videos and other posts that we have done and gotten reaction from that in a very positive way. And so I will joke that we also were uncertain if anyone was going to show up to any of our sessions. We did 3 sessions, and they were really well attended, and we got fantastic feedback for it. So I'm incredibly proud of the fact that we did that and that it went as well as it did. And yeah, that's what we did. So that was a fun one, and it was in Washington, D.C., so it was a nice time to be down there also. And that's the end of my presentation.
Yes, you are a very funny group of ladies. I'm glad it was very well attended. I hope you told them all you're very happy with your jobs and you're not going anywhere.
Part of it. That was definitely part of it.
No, I have to say, I understand as someone who works in the corporate world the importance of communications, and I think as a parent, I understood the importance of getting communications from the district, but the last few years, the communication style in this district has really blossomed, and I have really appreciated knowing where to find everything. And when this was before you, but when they switched from building communications to the one big Radnor reader, I was so angry I took time to write in and complain. I was like, well, because I had Radnor Elementary, I was like, I had to scroll all the way down through the email, and I was furious. I was like, this is ridiculous. I can't find. And then when my kids hit middle school, I was like, oh, I get to actually see what's going on at the high school, and I kind of know what's coming. So over time, I came to really appreciate, and then I'd get nosy and be like, what are they doing at West that we aren't doing at Radnor Elementary? So I think it's nice for people to have all that context, and I think it's great when you do have kids in different buildings to have all that. But I have been trying to stay off Instagram, but when I'm on Instagram, I've really appreciated seeing the holiday celebrations that we have and celebrating our students in all their various activities. I mean, we often see sports, but you really do cover the broad gamut of what they do. And I appreciate that. I think their families appreciate it. It gives people an insight into what's going on in the buildings during the day at a time when we don't have parents in the buildings all the time, like we might have when my kids were really little. So thank you for all you do. And the awards were well deserved, so thank you. Any other questions? I jumped right in, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say kudos, especially with respect to social media. I love the use of humor, and I have to say, so I run the Instagram accounts for the girls and boys tennis teams, and it's like the biggest motivator for them. Like everyone wants to be featured, not just on our, Instagram accounts, but the high school, and I mean, let alone the school district Instagram account. I mean, like literally, this is what motivates them. So we use that to our advantage when we want them to do something. Because I think it's a motivator, it's a community builder when used the right way, and I love that because you're kind of beating, and I love that you use LinkedIn for staff, right? Because you're kind of using the medium that works best for your audience and who you're trying to engage. And And I just think, the potential is limitless, right? And we kind of, I actually follow the Instagram accounts of every other Radnor affiliated PTO, booster club, sports team, and I get my ideas from them because I see you guys doing certain things. I was like, wait a minute, I can do that too. So I think it's just a great ecosystem that we're building where we're kind of positively reinforcing and recognizing the achievements of our students. So thank you for that.
Can I?
Go for it.
I get so proud whenever we see social media posts by our school district, and they get more and more and more traction. I mean, today's with the phys ed,
Wasn't that a great one?
so
I mean,
good.
yes.
And I have to watch them a couple times, and it just really makes me feel really proud, especially being in part of the school district for all these years. It's just really wonderful to see that we are only building more and better for all of our, community, our full community. So thank you.
Of course. Well, I'll tag on to what Ms. Lau said, that many of our staff also, I don't want to say are motivated, but truly enjoy being on the Instagram as well. So, and we are this close to hitting 7,000 followers, and that's like double the size of our district. So we're pretty proud of that. Also, it's grown significantly over the last couple of years.
That's a lot of grandparents.
But you know what's interesting? It is current students, it is former students, it is parents, it is alumni, it is grandparent, it really runs the spectrum of people who are following us. It's an interesting mix of followers that we have.
And I don't, again, I've been trying to stay off social media.
Good for you.
But did you do anything to cover the recent reunions?
They are,
Coming up.
I could have
They're
sworn the 45th I saw a sign. Wasn't that just like a couple weeks ago?
oh, yes, that was, that was an early one, but I
Oh,
think
okay.
most of them are like.
Coming up around the LM game.
Around LM, and then
Okay.
a few of them are around Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And will we do something to kind of, if those
That's-
alumni reach out?
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Good idea. We have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know one of the things we've talked about is keeping our alumni engaged, which is not the same as when you're an institution people pay for, but it is nice to keep them engaged and.
And we do get some engagement. I will get just updates every once in a while, like about something achievement that someone's had or something that's coming up, and we do post that on the alumni page. And then for the reunions specifically, I want to say that it must have been somebody who either saw it in the Radnor Reader or something, but a 5-year graduate contacted me and was like, hey, can you put our reunion information on that? So I'm wondering where he got all of that, but yeah, they talk.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for coming this evening to update us and for staying so late to be here. Appreciate it.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brennan, and thanks to the great work of your entire department.
Thanks.
Okay. Oh, I lost my page. Okay, next on the agenda is the legislative update. Dr. Kearney, I guess that's you.
Yeah, you have the two most recent legislative updates from the DCIU available in your packets. These come out around the first of the month, so there's useful information there. Sometimes it becomes a little bit dated. The two biggest news headlines, I think, are at the state level and the national level as far as the budget impasse. I know Mr. Pauling presented at the Finance Committee last week. There's not much more of an update other than I think we're at our 113th day now. No noticeable impact on operations here in Radnor Township School District, but this is obviously an issue of interest to us and school districts throughout the Commonwealth. The other one would be the federal government shutdown into about the third week of that. And similarly, you've probably seen that there have been a number of cuts to the education department, including the Office of Special Education and Civil Rights. Talking with our Office of Student Services, they haven't seen any impact here as far as operations or whatnot. But, something that they're interested in gathering more information about. Certainly all the laws governing special education, 504s, et cetera, they are still applicable and on the books and, guiding our work. So I don't know if there are any other topics that this group wanted to talk about or draw attention to, but if there are, it's your opportunity.
Anybody have anything they wanted to bring up? I did want to say, just that microphone's still on me, but I did want to say it doesn't affect Radnor, and we're very fortunate it doesn't affect Radnor to have the state government shut down, well, not shut down. It's the federal government that shut down the state government at the budget impasse. But I think it's important for people in Radnor to understand how fortunate we are in that regard, because so little of our budget comes from the state, and because we have such great fiscal responsibility, but frankly, because we are a more affluent community. There are districts that are really suffering. There are districts that have had to borrow money to pay their staffs to continue operating. So it's a thank you, I guess, out there to everybody who pays their tax bills early, either to get your discount or right on time. It does help us to continue to operate when there are budget impasses like this. And it does put us in a wonderful situation, in a beneficial situation, when other districts are really struggling. And some of them may face real financial hardship. And here in Delaware County, it's not just the big cities that people think of as struggling. A lot of Delaware County school districts are struggling to pay their bills and having to borrow money just to pay their salaries. So if you care about public education and feel like making a call, I know Lisa Borowski, who represents Radnor, is already trying to push for that, but feel free to call any of your other Pennsylvania state legislators to tell them that it's unacceptable not to have a budget on time. We don't get to do that here in Radnor. None of the school districts get to wait to have a budget on time. Most of us at home don't get to tell our creditors that we're not going to pay bills. And I think the state legislature should follow suit and do their duty and fund public education. That's me on my soapbox. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is new business. Is there anything anyone means to bring up? Okay. Then we have public comment, and we only take live public comment at the end of the meeting, and I'm not seeing any. So with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you. Thank you.